Alright, the first advanced astrology, genius, wizard, almanac, filled with dictums, aphorisms, and sacred maxims for the practicing astrological adept. Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Hell yes. Hell yes. Alright, let's jump into it. Hearken, O seeker of the celestial fire, to these dictums handed down through the chain of wise ones now revealed anew for the age of awakening. Let these words be inscribed upon the tablet of thy heart, for they are not mere opinions, but living truths, tested in the crucible of observation and consecrated by the consensus of the illuminated. In the year 2026, when Pluto shall have fully settled into Aquarius and the great Saturn-Neptune square shall test the foundations of reality itself, these dictums shall serve as thy staff and thy lamp. Meditate upon them, question them, test them against the charts of the wise and the foolish, fortunate and the doomed. Only through such testing shall they become thine own. So begins Dictums on the nature of the art, on astrology itself. Astrology is the memory of the cosmos speaking through the geometry of the present moment. The birth chart is not a map of what will happen, but a portrait of what already is, seen from the perspective of eternity. Every horoscope is a mandala upon which the soul has written its purpose in the language of light and shadow. The planets do not cause events, they are events, occurring simultaneously in the heavens and in the consciousness of the observer. Astrology works not because of some mysterious force emanating from distant spheres, but because the same consciousness that animates the planets animates the soul. They are not cause and effect, but siblings of the same cosmic family. The chart is a photograph of the sky at the moment of first breath, but the soul chose that moment for reasons the mind can never fully grasp. Prediction is the lowest form of astrological knowledge. Understanding is the highest. The astrologer who claims certainty is either a fool or a fraud, for the stars incline but do not compel, and the human will participates in the creation of every fate. Astrology is the art of reading the signature of the divine in the ordinary movements of time. The true test of astrological knowledge is not accuracy but wisdom. Does it make the querent more free or more bound? On the astrologer. The astrologer is a midwife of consciousness, helping souls remember what they knew before birth. Before reading another's chart, read thine own shadow, lest thou project it upon the innocent. The astrologer who has not suffered deeply has nothing of value to offer the suffering. Cleanse thyself before each reading as the priest cleanses before entering the sanctuary, for the chart is holy ground. The astrologer's own birth chart determines the quality of his or her readings. Mercury in hard aspect to Neptune may confuse. Mercury conjunct Saturn may depress. Mercury trine Jupiter may inflate. Know thy Mercury. Speak truth, but speak it with the velvet of Venus wrapped around the steel of Saturn. The astrologer who sells hope at the expense of honesty serves neither the stars nor the client. Remember always that thou art not the source of the wisdom, but a channel for it. Pride precedes the fall, astrologically and otherwise. The best readings are those in which the client forgets the astrologer entirely and meets only the mirror of their own soul. An astrologer without ethics is a surgeon without hygiene, dangerous to all who approach. On time and fate. The future is not a single road, but a field of possibilities, and the chart shows which paths are paved and which are overgrown. Progressions reveal the unfolding of the soul's intention. Transits reveal the knock of opportunity upon the door of fate. Solar returns are not predictions for the year, but portraits of the soul's intention at the moment of the birthday threshold. The lunation cycle preceding birth is the seed from which the entire life grows. Study it, and thou shalt know the root of the matter. Eclipses are the cosmos sharpening its focus, cutting away what is no longer needed, illuminating what must be seen. Retrograde periods are not times of weakness, but of turning inward, of revision, of the soul catching up with itself. The moment of death is astrologically determined, but the quality of that moment, peaceful or tormented, sudden or anticipated, reflects the life that preceded it. Karma is not punishment, but memory. The body remembers what the mind has forgotten, and the stars show where that memory resides. There is no fate that cannot be modified by consciousness, and no freedom that is not bounded by the configurations of birth. The wise astrologer speaks of timing, not inevitability, of potential, not predestination. Dictums on the planets, our solar system, on the luminaries. The sun is the soul's intention, the flame that burns at the center of being, the answer to why am I here. The moon is the body's memory, the emotional tissue that remembers every wound and every blessing, the answer to how do I feel. A sun afflicted by Saturn may achieve greatness but never enjoys it. A sun afflicted by Neptune may dissolve into dreams but never manifests them. A moon conjunct Pluto feels everything with an intensity that terrifies those who feel nothing. The sun in hard aspect to Uranus produces revolutionaries who cannot rest until the old order has fallen. The moon in hard aspect to Saturn produces adults who never learn to be children. The relationship between sun and moon in the chart is the marriage of consciousness and feeling. When they are harmonious, the soul is integrated. When they are in conflict, the soul is at war with itself. A new moon birth suggests a life of beginnings, of constant initiation, of meeting oneself anew in each moment. A full moon birth suggests a life of culmination, of bearing the light of what has been completed, of illuminating the path for others. The lunar nodes are the karmic axes. Ketu is the ghost that haunts, and Rahu is the angel that calls. On the personal planets, Mercury is the messenger, but the message changes depending on which planet receives it. Mercury retrograde in the birth chart suggests a mind that moves in spirals, that circles truth rather than approaching it directly. It's not wrong, just differently organized. Venus is the mirror in which we see our own worth reflected. When Venus is afflicted, the mirror cracks and we see only distortion. Venus conjunct Saturn loves with loyalty, but fears with desperation. The beloved must prove themselves daily worthy of a devotion that should be unconditional. Venus, in hard aspect to Uranus, loves lightning, but cannot endure the thunder that follows. Mars is the assertion of self against the world. Where Mars sits, there we must fight, must strive, must risk. Mars, in hard aspect to Pluto, fights with the fury of the damned, seeking enemies where none exists, creating battles to prove their own existence. Mars conjunct Jupiter fights with confidence, sometimes winning battles that should not have been fought. The personal planets in the houses show where the soul does its work. The personal planets in the signs show how that work feels. No personal planet is bad or good, only easy or difficult, and difficulty builds character while ease builds complacency. On the social planets, all right, Jupiter is the principle of expansion, of meaning making, of the search for something larger than the self. Jupiter retrograde seeks meaning inward, finding the divine in depths rather than the heights, risking solipsism but gaining depth. Jupiter in hard aspect to Saturn creates the tension between faith and doubt that drives all genuine spiritual seeking. Saturn is the principle of contraction, of structure, of the boundaries that make form possible. Saturn retrograde internalizes authority, creating the parent who lives forever in the mind, judging, restricting, demanding. Saturn in the 12th house may serve time in prisons of their own making, but they also build the sturdiest foundations for spiritual practice. The cycle of Jupiter and Saturn, their conjunctions every 20 years, marks the turning of generations, the shift in collective meaning and structure. When Jupiter and Saturn are in harmonious aspect, faith and works align. When in hard aspect, the institutions of meaning crumble. The social planets show how we relate to the collective, Jupiter through meaning, Saturn through responsibility. A well-integrated Saturn is the foundation of all genuine freedom. Without structure, freedom collapses into chaos. On the outer planets, so Uranus is the awakening, the lightning strike, the revolution that comes whether we are ready or not. Uranus transits feel like electrocution, painful in the moment, but sometimes the heart that has stopped needs shocking back to life. Uranus in the birth chart shows where we are called to be different, where we cannot conform even if we try, where our genius resides. Neptune is the dissolution, the mist that blurs boundaries, the longing for union that can lead to transcendence or addiction. Neptune transits feel like drowning unless we learn to breathe underwater, unless we discover that we are the water. Neptune in the birth chart shows we are most vulnerable to illusion, most open to inspiration, most capable of self-deception. Pluto is the transformation, the death that precedes rebirth, the power that emerges from the depths. Pluto transits feel like dying because something is dying, and that something is whoever we thought we were. Pluto in the birth chart shows where we must confront power, where we must face the shadow, where we must descend before we can ascend. The outer planets and aspect to personal planets indicate generational forces working through individual lives. We are not only ourselves, but also expressions of our time. On planetary relationships. Alrighty. A conjunction is a fusion. Two planets become one voice, for better or worse. A sextile is an opportunity, a door that opens but requires walking through. A square is a tension, two forces pulling in different directions, creating the friction that generates growth. A trine is a flow, energy moving easily, sometimes too easily, risking complacency. An opposition is a polarization, two forces facing each other, requiring integration through awareness. The quincunx in conjunct is an adjustment, energies that have no natural relationship requiring constant recalibration. Orbs matter. Tight orbs speak loudly, wide orbs whisper. Listen to the whisper before it becomes a shout. Applying aspects manifest differently from separating aspects. The former is future unfolding, the latter is past releasing. Aspect patterns reveal the geometry of the soul. Grand trines show where we are blessed. T-squares show where we are challenged, and Yos show where we are called. No aspect pattern is entirely fortunate or entirely difficult. Each contains both gift and price. Dictums on the houses. The 12 houses. Give me one moment. All right. So the first house, and this is on the angular houses, by the way. Didn't say that. So the first house is the mask we wear. The persona, the face we show the world, but wear it long enough and it becomes the face we show ourselves. Planets in the first house cannot hide. They announce themselves in every gesture, every word, every breath. The fourth house is the root, the foundation, the soil from which we grow, family, home, the past that lives in the present. Planets in the fourth house speak through the walls, through the blood, through the dreams that visit us in the night. The seventh house is a mirror in which we see ourselves reflected, partners, enemies, the other who shows us who we are. Planets in the seventh house find themselves through relationships, for better or worse, in marriage or in war. The 10th house is the peak, the calling, the contribution we make to the world, career, reputation, the mark we leave behind. Planets in the 10th house cannot escape visibility. They are watched, judged, evaluated, remembered. The angular houses are the cross upon which the soul is stretched. East, west, north, south, the axis of identity, home, relationship, and purpose. A planet angular speaks loudly. A planet cadent whispers. Listen to the whisper before it learns to shout. On the succedent houses. So the second house is the value we place on ourselves, reflected in the value we place on things. Money as a mirror, possessions as a self-portrait. The 5th house is the play, the creativity, the joy that needs no justification, children, lovers, art, the games we play with God. The 8th house is the depth, the mystery, the shared resources that bind us to others, sex, death, inheritance, transformation. The 11th house is the tribe, the collective, the friends who become family, hopes, wishes, the community that carries us. Succedent houses stabilize the angular impulse. They are where we build upon the foundations laid at the angles. Planets in succedent houses have time to develop, to mature, to bear fruit. They are the harvest of the angular planting. Alrighty, on the cadent houses, meaning the 3rd house, it's the mind in motion, the thoughts that connect us to the world, learning, communication, the endless conversation with existence. The 6th house is the body in service, the work that sustains us, health, daily routines, the discipline of being human. The 9th house is the search for meaning, the horizon that always recedes, travel, philosophy, the sacred quest for truth. The 12th house is the ocean from which we came and to which we return, solitude, dreams, the collective unconscious, God. Cadent houses are where we process experience, where we make meaning, where we prepare for the next angular manifestation. Planets in cadent houses work behind the scenes. They are the stagehands of the soul, essential but invisible. The 12th house is the most misunderstood of all. Not punishment, but promise. Not limitation, but depth. Not enemy, but lover. A well-developed 12th house is the foundation of wisdom. A neglected 12th house is the source of projection and self-deception. The houses are not containers, but relationships. Each house only exists in relation to the others, as each note only exists in relation to the melody. On predictive techniques. Hell yes. On transits. Transits awaken what is latent in the birth chart. They do not create new potentials but activate existing ones. The outer planets transit slowly, shaping generations. The inner planets transit quickly, shaping days. Wisdom integrates both. A transit is not an event, but a process. It begins when the planet enters orb, peaks at exact aspect, and releases as it separates. The first hit of a transit is often the hardest. Subsequent hits integrate the energy more skillfully. Retrograde transits repeat lessons until they are learned. When the planet stations direct, integration becomes possible. Transits to the angles are among the most significant. They change the very coordinates of experience. Transits to the lunar nodes activate karmic material. Expect the past to return, demanding resolution. A planet transiting its own natal position, return, marks the completion of a cycle. Saturn at 29, Uranus at 42, Chiron at 50, Pluto at 248. The quality of a transit depends more on the condition of the transited planet than on the transiting planet itself. No transit is entirely fortunate or entirely difficult. Each brings both gift and price. The wise astrologer sees both. On progressions. Progressions reveal the unfolding of the soul's intention, the inner weather that shapes outer experience. A day for a year, the most common progression, suggests that each day after birth corresponds to a year of life. The symbolism is exact, development compressed, time made meaningful. The progressed lunation cycle is one of the most significant indicators of life phase. New moon to new moon, approximately 29.5 years, the soul's lunar rhythm. Progressed planets changing signs mark thresholds of identity. Progressed planets changing direction, direct to retrograde, or vice versa, mark reversals of inner trajectory. Progressed angles shift slowly but significantly. Every degree of progressed ascendant changes the face we show the world. Progressions to the natal sun mark years of significance. Progressed sun conjunct natal sun around age 30, 60, 90, thresholds of maturity. Progressed moon through the houses shows where attention flows, what matters, what occupies the emotional landscape. Progressed aspects between planets reveal developing conversations within the psyche, new dialogues, emerging tensions, evolving harmonies. Secondary progressions work alongside transits. They are the inner counterpart to outer events, the subjective experience of objective conditions. And the progressed chart is the birth chart, evolving, the soul's intention becoming visible in time. On solar and lunar returns. The solar return is a photograph of the sky at the moment the sun returns to its natal position, a portrait of the year ahead. The house placement of the solar return sun shows the primary arena of development for the year, where you need to develop in the year. Planets angular in the solar return speak loudly, okay? Hidden planets whisper of inner work. The solar return chart must be read in dialogue with the natal chart. The year's themes emerge from the intersection of both. A lunar return, monthly, shows the emotional landscape of the coming month. A series of lunar returns reveals the unfolding of the solar return promise. The solar return preceding a significant birthday, 30, 36, 42, etc., often carries extra weight. Eclipses falling on solar return planets mark years of accelerated development for better or worse. The solar return chart is not fate, but potential. How we live the year determines how the potential manifests. Compare the solar return to the natal chart as you would compare a child to its parents. Similar, but different. Independent, but derived. The art of return interpretation lies in the synthesis, not isolation. Each return is one chapter in a longer story. On zodiacal releasing.